Well, hello anybody that's joined. I think I've got one viewer at the moment. Say hello, and so I know you are. I've got the comments on. We're going to play the second game of round 4 of the AFL 2021 season, the Thursday night game, which is the first game of the season, and we're at the Sydney Cricket Ground, where Sydney Swans are playing the Essendon Bombers, and currently at half-time the score is 49-63. So you'll see I've got a load of dice here. We'll just see how things go. So we're going to get the centre bounce, and it's going to be a 6, which is the trailing ruckman wins. So that's going to be Sydney, and they're going to have the ball in midfield. So Sydney have the ball. If you want to leave a question or ask a question, just do so, and if I see it, I'll try and answer it. 9 is going to be a scramble, and we're looking at skill. So Sydney are the home team. Skill 1, 1.5, 2, 3, 4, 4.5, 4, 3, 1.5. So 1 to 4 will be Sydney on the challenge, and it's not. So Essendon will take the ball, and we're in midfield, and they'll keep the ball in midfield but take over possession. So we have Sydney with the ball in midfield, and a 7 is a ground blast, so we're going to get the chance of scores here. Let's see how many minutes we're talking about. 3-minute blast. So we're already down at minute 4, and a 3 on a blast is a clear. So we're checking clears, and half, 1, 4, 5 for Essendon, 4.5, 3.5, 2.5, 2, half, 1.5, half. So 1 to 4 will be Essendon. I'll roll that again. If it comes off this or anything drops over, I'm going to roll all the dice again. And so a 3 will be Essendon. So Sydney will get the chance at a missed shot first. So we need the 2 yellow dice, the black dice, and then the 2 D10s. The red is the 10 and the white is the unit. So let's go and see what happens. 9 on the missed chart is going to hit the post and go for a behind, and number 56 for Sydney is Callum Mills. So Callum Mills will get a behind for Sydney. And so 50 to 63. Now what happens is that Essendon get somebody to kick, and so we have to get somebody with at least 1 star, and 16 for Essendon is really good. It's going to be Anthony Tipungwuti, who's a 3, so he gets an extra 2, which will be a 5. So the green dice, 5 or less, it's a goal, and it isn't, it's a 6. So he's going to miss the goal, and he's going to kick left, and so Tipungwuti, Tipungwuti, for anybody who's interested, gets a behind as well. And the way I play that is that it's always the last action of the blast, so you continue as though that was the last thing that happened. So it's a behind, and let's see what Sydney are going to do with this behind. It's a 19, so they're just going to make a normal play. Forgot to put the point on there. 50 to 64, three score game at the moment, and a 5. That's going to be the umpires getting involved in this game. Let's see what happens. And it's a 4, and that is a defensive player called for pushing, so a defensive penalty. Swans, Sydney get the penalty, and they're going to try and mark, and it's going to be from Jordan Dawson, who's got a kick of 3, to Chad Warner, who's got a mark of 0. So 1 to 3 on the green dice. A 1 is always successful, a 6 is always a failed mark, and so he marks to the centre field. So now Sydney can mark forward again, and what I do is I don't make the decision for them. So I could roll a dice. A 5 or a 6 on the green dice will be not moving forward and playing on, and it's a 6, so they're going to just play on. So Sydney have the ball in midfield, and we have a 6, which is a crash. So we need the black and white and the green dice. The players involved in this crash are for Sydney number 3 McInerney and number 5 Zach Merritt, and we're looking at 1% against Star. McInerney has got a half in his 1%. Merritt has got 2, so favourite to Essendon 1-4, and Essendon will take the ball in midfield. And let's see what they're going to do with this. A 4 is going to advance it to the forward 50. So Essendon in the forward 50 with control of the ball, and it's a 7, so it's another blast. And this time it is for 6 minutes. So that will take us to the 12th minute. We will have a substitution at the end of this, but a 6 on a ground blast is Star. So let's see what we've got here. Essendon are in charge, so 2, 3, 3.5, 4.5, 5, 4.5, 4. So 1-5 will be Essendon, who get the chance of a kick, and it's not going to be Essendon, so Essendon will go first off the miss chart. And so let's see what happens. We need the 2 D10s and the 2 greens and the 2 yellows and the black. And the yellows is an 8. So it's kicked it left, and the person who kicked it left is 57, and that is Nicholas Cox. So a behind for Essendon. And let's see who's going to take the kick for Sydney on the blast. 31. 31 is Isaac Heaney. He's a 3, so he gets the 2 bonuses of 5. So green dice 5. And a successful kick for Heaney. So 56-65 is the current score, and we've just completed the 11th minute, so that means we've got to substitute on. And so the interchange players will be coming back onto the field. McDonald will come on, and they're going to take Franklin off. And you do this every 10 minutes. At the start of the first and second period, it's always the starters that are on the field. So a midfielder here with a 2-star, so we're going to take Kennedy off. You always try and keep your star players higher up. So there you see Mills needs to come down. Golden will come off for Sydney, as will Sam Reed. So we're going to do a lot of forward changing there. And now for Essendon. The blue chips are the ones that have already done their 10-minute rest, so they can't go off. They've already been off. So let's have a look. Forward, we've got a 3, and they're going to take Stringer off and bring Harrison Jones on. Waterman is going to come off, and Golfy will come on. We don't have any forwards left, any midfielders left to come off, so midfielder will play up forward, Andrew McGrath, and then this guy will play in defence. So we're ready to pick up, and it's going to be a centre bounce because we've just had a goal. So 11 minutes into this third quarter of the game, just past half time, and it's a 5, which is another umpire's chart call, and a 4, and again it's the let's take that back. We're on a kickoff, aren't we? We're on a bounce here because we just had a goal, so let's do that again. 8 D20. Ruckman will stay in the current zone, and You roll a d20 and the home team get 1 to 12, but they've also got a +1 on their ruckman. The ruckman, Tom Hickey, is a 3. Peter Wright for Essendon is a 2, so it's a 1 to 13. And a 3 will mean that Sydney will take the ball, but they'll keep it in midfield. Sydney trying to cut this gap. An 8 is a tackle, and this you only need the black and white dice because the traits are already decided on a tackle. It's going to be offense is going to have disposal and defense will have tackle. So let's see who's involved. It's going to be 4, who is Justin McInerney, and he has a half disposal, and 5, who is Zach Merritt, who has a full tackle. So in the challenge 1 to 4 for Essendon, roll that again. Roll it again, it came out. And a 3, so Essendon will take over the ball, and they are going to try and mark forward. It used to be the rule that it just took over in midfield, but that's been changed so that when the defense win a tackle, it's either a mark or it's a kick for goal if it's in the forward 50. So let's see who's going to mark here. It's going to go from Dyson Heppel with a kick of 3 to Andrew McGrath, who has not got any mark. So 1 to 3 is a successful mark, and he's going to miss that. Is there any Sydney player in the defense that can take? Dane Rampy, he's got a mark value of 2. Can he complete this mark? He cannot, so it's going to be a loose ball, and we're going to look at 1%. So Essendon, 1, 1.5, half, 1.5 to Sydney, 2. So it's going to be 1 to 5 for Sydney on the challenge. Roll it again. It's got to stay in the box. So Sydney take the ball in their own D50. 56-65. There was a lot of goals. 49-63 at half time, and they're taking the time in this period. A 7 is another ground blast. How many minutes is this going to be? 1 minute. A 1 minute blast, and we're going to check skill. So Sydney have the ball. Half, 1, 1.5, half, even. So it's half towards Essendon. 1 to 4 in the challenge for Essendon, and they're going to lose. So Essendon will go on to the miss chart. Sydney will have an attempt at a kick. So Essendon, 3 is a short kick with a 5. It's going to miss, and the possession would go to Sydney. So let's see what happens with Sydney. Who's going to attempt the kick in this blast? 45. 45 for Sydney is Braden Campbell. He's got 1 star, so that'll only be doubled up. They only get a bonus of 1 if you're 1 star, and that's the reason why you see an unfilled star and filled stars. If it's unfilled, they only get a bonus of 1. If it's filled, they get a bonus of 2 on a blast. So 1 to 2 on the green dice. It's going to miss, and an 8 is going to hit the post and go out for a behind. So Campbell gets a behind for Sydney. 57-65, and the ball will be with Essendon. What are they going to do after the behind? A 6 is going to be a mark from defence to midfield, and it's going to go from Zirk Thatcher, who has not got any kick rating, to Darcy Parish, who has got no mark rating. So only thing that can save them here is a 1 on the green dice, and he's going to miss that. Can Sydney take the mark? 3 is Callum Mills. He doesn't have any mark, so it's going to be a loose ball, and we're going to check skill. Half, 2.5, 3.5, 4, 3.5, 2.5, 2, 1, +1 to Sydney. So Sydney's challenge is 1 to 4, and it's a 1. So Sydney will take the mark. and they will be in midfield. 57-65, and a 10 is going to go out of bounds on the sideline for an umpire's throw-in. And this is going to be 10. D20 home ruckman wins the ruck. So Sydney win the ruck. Takes an immediate advantage, so they move up to the F50. But he only gets a behind. So the player that gets the behind off there is 8, who is Tom Papley. So Papley scores a behind. Third behind of this period. And it's now 85-65 in favour of Essendon. And let's see what they're going to do, bringing it out after a behind. 12, they're going to go for a mark. Defence to defence this time. And that is going to go from Ridley, who's a 4 kick, to Hind, who has not got a mark rating. So 1-4. Oh, roll it again. So it's a good mark. Do they want to mark forward? He's going to try and mark forward. So this time, Hind will be the person taking the mark. So he's got a 4, and he's going to kick it up to Langford, who's got a 2, which is 6. But so only a 6 will fail this mark. And so the second mark is good, getting him into centre field. Do they want to try and go forward again? No, they're going to stay with the ball in centre field, Essendon. And the umpires, whistle goes again. Let's see what happens this time. 10. Offensive penalty for pushing. So Sydney will take the ball in midfield, and they will try and mark, and they're going to try and mark from Callum Mills, who's got a kick of 3, to Sam Wicks, who's got a mark of 0. So 1-3 on the green dice, and that's going to be a miss. Aaron Francis has a 2 mark, so 1-2 will give him the mark. He can't make it, so it's going to be a loose ball, and we're going to be checking on skill. Half 1, 1 for Sydney, half 0, so it's equal. So 1-4 is Sydney's, and they get the ball in the forward 50. 58-65. Just 2 scores in it, and a 3 is going to be a bouncing ball, so the ball is bouncing around, and we're looking at star versus 1%. 2, 3, 3.5, 4 against 1%. 3, 1 evens. So Essendon have a +1, so a 1-4 on the challenge, and they lose it. So Sydney will win that, and that will lead to a kick at goal. Who's going to kick the ball? 88. That is going to be Tom Hickey. He's got a 1. I'll roll it again because one of the dice didn't stay in the box. So he misses it, and the 6 is going to miss the ball right, the post right, and so Hickey gets himself a behind, 4th behind of this quarter, and the ball will be with Essendon in their defensive 50. What are they going to do? 6, they're going to try and mark to the midfield, and it's going to be Nick Hind, who's got a kick of 4, out to Devon Smith, who has not got a mark. So 1-4 will make a successful mark, and it does. So Essendon marks to the centre field. Do they want to try and move up forward? They're going to give it a go. So Smith has not got any kick, so it needs to be somebody with a high mark. And Nicholas Cox has a mark of 1. So this needs to be a 1, and it isn't. So the following mark is missed. Can somebody from Swans, Sydney take it? 4? No. So we're going to have a loose ball, and it's going to be the clear trait we're looking at now. Half, 1, 1.5, 2.5, 2. So 1-5 on the challenge for Essendon, and they will keep the ball in the forward 50. Very low scoring in this third quarter of this game. And we're going to get a blast. How long is this blast going to last? 5 minutes. So this will take us to the end of the three-quarter time. And a 5 on a blast is going to be disposal. Half. 1.5. 1 half. So that's going to be a +2. So 1 to 5 will give Swansea the opportunity to kick, and it does. So Essendon and Sydney. I keep saying Swansea, but it's Sydney. So let's see what happens with Essendon. Only 2 behinds in this period. And this time we get a 7 and it's going to miss. So they don't even get anything there. And for Sydney, kicker is number 13, who is Tom Papley. He's got a 4. It's going to be a 6. So it's going to be a successful kick. So he'll get a goal. And that is three-quarter time. So Sydney now are 10-5-65. And Essendon are 10-5-65. So we've got a tied game here. And we're going to make the substitutions before the start of the fourth quarter, the final quarter. Currently, both teams are 2-1. Essendon are 9th and Sydney are 12th. So this forward's going to come back on. So the first thing I do, because we're now at this point where there's only 2 players to come off, just take them off. Dawson and Florent must come off, and at this point now means that I can take the blue chips off Sydney, because they're never going to bring anybody else on that needs a blue chip. The only 2 people that are left to come back on will come on later. So we got we need to do a defender and a midfielder. So Kennedy's going to come on. And I think we'd probably move Callum Mills back to defence and bring Gullen into midfield. And now we have to take 2 of the exchange players off the field. So I think it's pretty obvious that we're going to take these 2 forwards off. So that's Sydney all ready for the fourth period. And let's see who we've got. Tipum Guti has got to come off. And Nick Hind has got to come off. So again, I can now take the blue chips off because they're just cluttering up the field. And we have a forward. So Mr. Stringer is going to come back on. He's going to actually go to the top slot. In fact, I think Peter Wright will move up as well. We need a defender. And then we've got another forward. So McGrath can come off, one of the alternates. And these guys will move down. And then we've got another guy coming on here. Oh, he can't. It's got to be a... Let's take one of these guys off. Let's give us a bit of action in the defensive zone. So we're lined up ready for the commencement of the final quarter of the game. 65-65. Very nicely poised. Aussie rules, if it's tied at the end of the game, it's a tie. So the ball is in centre field. And here we go. 6 on the centre bounce. Trailing ruckman wins current zone. Well, we haven't got a trailing ruckman, so it's going to go to the home team. So Sydney take the ball in midfield. Roll that again, a dice came out. And we have a 7, which means we've got a ground blast straight away. 2-minute ground blast. And that will be checking tackle. Sounds a bit disgusting, but 1, 2, 2.5, 3.5, 3, 2, 1, half to Essendon. So 1 to 4 for Essendon. And Essendon will get the chance of a shot. Sydney will see what they get from the miss chart. And you can still get a goal from the miss chart. It has happened. And it happens quite often, actually. 9. It's going to hit the post and go over. And that's going to be from 85, who is Justin McInerney. So for a short while at least, Sydney have the lead in this final quarter. Let's see who's going to take the kick for Sydney. And it's going to be 56 for Essendon, sorry. 56 is going to be Nicholas Cox. He's got 1 star, so that'll become a 2-star. He's going to miss, and 8 will again, he's going to kick the ball left. So Nicholas Cox gets a behind, and the score is tied at 66. The ball is going to be brought in by Sydney, and they are going to just run the ball out. So we're going to get another blast here. See how many minutes this time? 5 minutes. So another 5 minutes come off the clock, and that's going to take us to 8.5 minutes. And a 5 is disposal. 2, 2.5, 4.5, 5, 5.5, 6, 5.5, 4. So 1 to 5 for Sydney in this case. And so Essendon will go on to the miss chart. Sydney will have a chance at goal. Let's see what happens with Essendon. 5. Scramble in front of the goal. Defender gets a hand to it and knocks it through the post, but they'll only get a behind for that, and it'll be 72. Kyle Langford gets the behind for Essendon. Let's see who's going to take the kick for Sydney. 65 will be Chad Warner. So he's got a 2, so it becomes a 4. And he's going to miss that, and a 9 will going to hit the post. And so Chad Warner watches his ball curve away and go and hit the post, and he gets a behind for that. Essendon will bring the ball up from their own defensive 50, and it's going to be a mark to the midfield. So it's going to be from Laverde, who's got a kick of 2, to Heppel, who's got a mark of 1. So 1 to 3. It's not going to be successful. Can somebody from Sydney make the mark? Parker, if he gets a 1, he can. And he can't, so loose ball, and we're looking at skill. Half, 2.5, 3.5, 4, 3, 2, 1.5, 1. 1 for Sydney, 1.5. So 1 to 4 on the challenge. Gives it to Sydney in the midfield. All tied at 67. And an 8 is a tackle. And the tackle is going to be between Josh Kennedy, who's got a disposal, and Brian Ham, who's got absolutely nothing. So 1-4 for Kennedy. Gets the ball. So Sydney take the ball, and in midfield, let's see what's going to happen. A 4. They're going to advance that to the forward 50. Trying to get themselves a lead. We're 9.5 minutes into this final quarter, and a 6 is going to be a crash. So a crash is the same as a tackle, really, but we don't know what the trait is yet. Oh, roll it again. The green dice comes out. So it's going to be between Franklin and Jordan Ridley. And it is a 1 on the green dice, which is disposal against tackle. Nothing for Franklin, nothing for Ridley. So 1-4 to the team in possession, Sydney. And so Sydney take the ball in the forward 50, and they will take a kick. Who's going to take that kick? 48 is going to be Sam Reed, and he's got 2 stars, so green 2. And it's a good kick. So Sam Reed gets the goal. Gives Sydney a 73-67 lead. And we're back at the centre for a centre bounce from the umpire. And it's 8, a D20 for the ruckman, and it'll be staying in the same zone. So 1-13 with the +1 on the difference in ruckman. And it's a 16, so Essendon take the ball in the midfield, trailing by a goal. So just 1 score in it. 11, and 11 is a ball in the air, so the ball has bounced high in the air, and it's disposal against tackle. So half, 2.5, 4.5, 6.5, 5.5, 5, 4, 3. So 1-5 on the challenge for Essendon, and Essendon will win that. In midfield, let's see what happens. 2, and they're going to stay in midfield, and that is the 10-minute mark. So we're now left with the 2 players that come on for the remaining exchange players. So we're back to our original players in the lineup. So I've got Florent there. Have we got somebody that can move forward? Let's move them out of the way. So Warner is going to come on, move forward, up to forward. Hewitt will move to midfield. And the 4 interchange players are now off the field for Sydney. The 2 for Essendon will also come off. And we're looking at Tipunguti coming back on, and Mark Hind coming back on. Hind will move up because he's got a star. Hi Dwayne, how are we doing, mate? We've got 10 minutes left in this game. Sydney 73, Essendon 67, and at the beginning of the half it was 49-63 to Essendon. So Essendon have the ball in midfield, and a 5 will be the umpires. So the umpires are getting involved again. Let's see what happens. 10. Offensive team called for pushing. So Sydney will take over, and let's have a look in midfield. They're going to try and mark, and they're going to go from George Hewitt, who's got a 0 kick, to Isaac Heaney, who's got a 2 mark, so 2 on the green dice. and it's going to be a successful mark, and so he'll follow that up with a kick, and he's got a 3. This could be make it a 2-score game, and a 3 is good. So Heaney gets the goal, and Sydney now 79-67. Still only a 2-score game. We're back in the centre. The centre umpire is ready to bounce the ball, and let's see what happens. 8. D20 Ruckman stays in the current zone, so 1-13 is Sydney. So Essendon will take the ball and keep this in midfield. 2 scores behind. We're going to roll that again. 9 minutes remaining, and a 9 is a crash, a scramble, sorry. And so we are looking at skill, half, 2.5, 3.5, 4, 3.5, 2.5, 1.5, 1, even. So that's going to go to the offense, 1-4 for Essendon, needing to get a goal. And they win the ball on the scramble, and from midfield they will continue to run and work the ball around. 4 is going to be a mark. So Essendon looking to mark the ball into the forward 50, and it's going to come from Zach Merritt, who's got a kick of 3, to Alec Waterman, who's got a mark of 2, so only a 6 can fail. And it's a good mark, which will lead to a kick for Waterman. He's got a 3 on the green dice, and it's a good kick. So Waterman gets the first goal for Essendon in this 4th quarter. Oh, I didn't want to do that. 73-79, and still only 1 score in it. 6.5 minutes. Centre bounce from the umpire 6, trailing Ruckman wins the ball in the centre zone, so Essendon will take the ball again in midfield. Hope you're enjoying this, Wayne. Dwayne. Or Wayne, depending on if you like being called that, I don't mind. Essendon with a 5. The umpires are going to get involved and make a decision again. Let's see what happens. 5. It's going to be a defensive penalty for tripping. So Essendon will make a mark here from Dyson Heppel, who's got a kick of 3, to Tipum Guti, who has not got a mark. So 1-3 will be a successful mark and a chance to even up the game. And it is a good mark. So Tipum Guti gets the chance of a kick. He's a 3. He's going to miss that. And 12 is going to be a muffed kick with a 3. Gets a lucky bounce and it goes through the posts. So Tipum Guti watches the ball bounce through the post, and they tie up the game at 79 with just 7 minutes remaining. 7 minutes on the clock, 79-79, and that's as fast as this game can change. We're at the centre for the bounce, an 8. The good roll on this is a 9. It's an automatic goal for whoever. D20 roll 1-13 to see who gets it in the centre field, and it's going to be Essendon again coming on strong. So they have the ball in midfield. Hi, Rob. Coming for a bit of Aussie rules, and a 10 is an out of bounds. So the side umpire will line up and throw the ball back into the game. And a 10 is going to be a D20 home ruckman Sydney. Wins on a current zone. So Sydney have the ball, all tied up. Oh, I don't know, Rob. I mean, they're my team. I've followed Sydney since I actually saw them in '89. But they've struggled in this game. An 8 is a tackle. So tackle in midfield. Let's see who's involved. It's going to be Errol Golden, who's got a half disposal, against Braden Ham, who's got absolutely nothing. So challenge 1 to 4 for Sydney, and they lose it. So Essendon take the ball and they will try and mark forward into the forward 50, and it's going to go from Darcy Parish with a 2 kick to Alec Waterman with a 2 mark, so 1 to 4, and a successful mark. So Waterman will take the kick, and he's got a 3-star kick. So 1 to 3 will put Essendon in front, and it does. So Waterman gets the goal, and 85 to 79 now for Essendon with 5.5 minutes remaining. Yeah, they did play in the Championship this year, and they got absolutely spanked by Geelong, 124 to something like 35 or something. I got up at 5 a.m. to watch the game live, and they got spanked. Men against boys. So we're in the centre for a centre bounce. The umpire bounces the ball. D20 home ruckman wins 1 to 12 in the current zone, 1 to 13 because of the ruck difference. But Essendon again take the ball as we come back down to the last 5 minutes of this game. One score in it, 79-85. And a 9 is a scramble. The ball is around and they're scrambling for the ball. And we're looking at clear. Half, 1, 4, 5, 4.5, 3.5, 2.5, 2, 1.5, 1. So 1 to 4 on the challenge. And so Sydney will take over in midfield, and let's see what they can do with this ball when they take it over. A 1. They're just going to keep it and look to move forward. Four is a mark. So Sydney trying to mark into the offensive zone. All that again because the black dice came out, and it's going to be Zirk Thatcher, who's got no kick. Heppel Hewitt, let's get it right, who's got no kick, to Sam Reed, who's got a 3 mark. So 1 to 3, and it's a good mark. He's got 2 stars, so he'll take the kick. Black dice came out, and he rolled a 1. But he still gets it. Kick is good, and Hewitt gets the goal. Ties the game up. 65-65, 85-85, and we have 4 minutes remaining in this game. Centre bounce. The umpire bounces the ball, and a 9. This is the one somebody's going to score. So 1 to 13. Sydney will score from the bounce, and it's an 8. So Sydney take the ball, go up to the forward 50, kick the goal, and the player that kicks the goal is, roll that again, 30, and that is Isaac Heaney. So 91-85, and that's one of the rule changes that were brought in. It was a better throw-in and bounce chart. That was the original chart, and Chris has changed it, and he's incorporated it into a 2 dice roll, and one of them is an automatic goal, and it's the 9, as you've just seen. they were much better throughout the whole of the playoffs. They were just tremendous. Geelong, they were just far superior in the game. Let's say it were men against boys. 3.5 minutes remaining, and we've got a centre bounce 7 home ruckman win. So Sydney take the ball and they keep the ball in the midfield. 3 minutes remaining, and a 2, which is a highlight reel. We've not had one of them before in this game anyway. So we're on this chart, the highlight reel chart. Let's see what happens. 6 in midfield. Spec it intercept, mark, defence, possession in the defensive 50. So Essendon are going to take the ball from the mark in their own defensive 50. Essendon with just 1 score behind, and a 6 is a crash. Let's see who's involved. It's going to be Zirk Thatcher for Essendon and Franklin for Sydney, and we're looking at 4. Clear against skill. Well, he's got nothing, and Franklin's got half a skill, so 1-4 for Sydney. So Sydney take the ball, and let's see what's going to happen there. They're going to get a kick at goal. No, they're not, because they're the defensive team. 6. Well, they are going to get a kick at goal with that roll. So they're going to take a kick, and this could seal it. Oh, 93. That is going to be George Hewitt. So he cannot kick a goal because he has no stars. But he could get one off the miss chart. So a 6. He's going to miss the ball right. So George Hewitt gets a behind and makes it a 2-score game. 2 minutes remaining. What will Essendon do? 11. They're going to try and mark defender to defender here. And so that's going to be Jordan Ridley with a 4 kick, which is very good, to Nick Hind with a no mark. So 1-4. It was bad. It really was bad. It was an awful game. So the mark is good. Are they going to try and mark forward? They are, and he's got a kick of 4. So he's going to try and mark it out to Dyson Heppel. So kick of 4, mark of 1, 5. And that's going to be a good mark. Do they want to try and move it into the forward field? No, they don't. And really, I think they should have done, but I don't make that decision. That Dice did. So a 7 is a blast, and they didn't want that. This will probably be the last, unless it's a 1. This will be the end of the game. It's a 2. So a 2-minute blast is tackle. 1, 1.5, 2.5, 3.5, 4, 3.5, 2.5, 2, 1.5. So 1-4. Sydney will take the missed shot. Essendon will take the possible kick, but I think it's not going to make any difference. And so a 9 is going to be a behind for 48, who is Chad Warner for Swindon, Sydney. So they've been Swansea and Swindon. And so who's going to take the kick for Essendon? 29. Anthony Tipungwuti, who's got a 3, so it'll become a 5 with his 2 bonus. You missed it. And a 6 is going to be a kick right. So Tipungwuti also gets a behind. And there is the horn to end the game. Sydney 14-9-93 beat Essendon 13-8-86. So there you have it. Thursday night game in the books. Sydney will move to 2-2 and Essendon will move to 1-3. And that's really the game. Anything you want to ask me, guys? Thank you, sir. I'm glad you enjoyed it. It's a really good game. I'm really enjoying playing it, and in general, they're all finishing sort of fairly close. I've had one or two games where the game has finished on the last play. The result has been decided on the last play. Unfortunately, there for Essendon, they got that that blast, and it sort of finished the game for them. Really, not a lot they could do once that roll of two came in, because they didn't have the chance to take another bounce and make it 2 scores and try and win the game. When's the bowling coming back? Whenever I get round to actually trying to 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. When I get round to going through the old videos and getting the scores right, the points for the players. So if you want to see the score sheet that I've got there, that's how it looks. A bit of a mess, but you know, you can actually follow the game through and work out what happened. Those lines are where the blasts were. Does anybody want to join and say hello? Nobody? Okay then, in which case, guys, have a good evening and we will see you again. Thanks and good night.